Hi, good morning, everyone. I don't know, I guess we have people from different parts of the world. Good morning for people who are in India. I know it's too early in the morning for you all. Thank you all for taking time to join us. Really appreciate this. It also shows how passionate you guys are to learn a lot. Like, so 3 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't even imagine getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So thank you, Kunkun, for talking a little bit about me. So I'm Shyam Addanki. I've been working as an enterprise agile coach, and I've supported a lot of large-scale enterprise agile transformation, transformation in a lot of companies in the banking sector, the telecom sector, and in the healthcare, in the pharma sector, and also in the energy sector. And I'm currently helping out on a large-scale transformation initiative in the Fed world, right? That's a short, that's a sweet way of saying I'm really old, really old, right? All right. So the reason why I've said all these things is to let you know that I've worked with the product managers from different domains, right? And then I really have very closely worked with them, so I understand their pain points because I understand their frustrations, and each of them in the different spaces have different kind of challenges and opportunities, right? So that's that. With that, I'm going to get straight into the topic today. The topic that I'm going to be presenting is achieving business agility with Agile Product Delivery. Right? I'm going to be talking about two things: achieving what this Agile Product Delivery is and why is it required, and how do you achieve this business agility using the Agile Product Delivery. I'm also going to be talking about what we're going to be teaching in this Safe Agile Product Manager course at a very high level, maybe 500 feet level or probably 1,000 feet level. So what's business agility, right? So it's the ability of an enterprise, right? Or it's the ability of all the enterprises to be able to continuously inspect and adapt and quickly and effectively respond to the market conditions and the opportunities and come up with creative and innovative solutions, right? And especially if you look at the market conditions, the current market conditions, there is this pandemic has caused a lot of disruption. But even in this kind of a market, there are a lot of companies in the world who've seen it as an opportunity to create opportunities for themselves and their customers, right? How did they do that? They went ahead and then they really empathize with their customers. They've taken their customers the places that they've not gone, and then they've come up with the right solutions for the right customers in the right place, in the right way. Right? The goal of this, so that's the whole idea. So as long as you, and then how else did they do that? So they really focused on two things. They really strike an optimal balance between the customer, the execution focus and the customer focus. So no matter how good your execution strategies are, if you lose focus on the customers, you may not be able to deliver products to the customers that are viable, feasible, and reliable and sustainable, right? So with that, so we'll spend a little bit of time really trying to understand what this Agile Product Delivery is. So what is Agile Product Delivery? First and foremost, it's one of the 7 core competencies of the lean enterprise, right? And each of these competencies are required for you to achieve the business agility. Now, I'm not going to get into all the 7 competencies here because my focus of this 10-minute session is just like on the Agile Product Delivery, right? And then each of these competencies are supported by a specific assessment. And if time permits, me and probably Adam are going to show you how to access that. All you need to do is to go to SAFE website and you should be able to get that assessment. It's a very good assessment sheet that will enable you to really understand, or enterprises to understand where they are with respect to each of these competencies. And then I'm going at a pretty rapid pace here because I probably have 8 minutes to be able to do that, and I'll pass it on to Adam. And after that, we have a Q&A session, and we're going to take all your questions. So don't think that I'm rushing through. We'll have ample time to get your questions and answers at the end of the session. Now, what is Agile Product Delivery? Like I said, this is a highly customer-centric approach for designing, defining, building, and releasing continuous flow of value in the form of products, in the form of services, in the form of solutions that you're providing for your customers, right? So I love flow. There are a lot of organizations within the US, they call me, I'm a flow guy. They call me Shamban. They don't call me Sham, they call me Shamban. So we want to make sure that there's a flow of value, continuous flow of value, right, to the customers. And why do you want to do that, right? So why Agile Product Delivery is required, right? Why is this competency required? Well, it's because every enterprise in this world, they must rapidly increase their ability to deliver innovative products and services and solutions constantly. And especially, like I said, there are a lot of companies who have done this by focusing, right, by striking that optimal balance between execution focus and customer focus, right? So this Agile Product Delivery, this core competency, gives you all the knowledge, the tools, and the processes, and the templates that are required for you to be able to really create the right solutions for the right customers, right, in the right time, right, by allowing you to focus on these two things, right, the customer and the execution. Now, how do you do that, right? That's the next question. There are 3 dimensions that we take into consideration for doing that. One is the customer centricity and design thinking. So what's customer centricity and design thinking, right? The idea behind the customer centricity is you put your customer at the center of every design, right? That every decision that you and customers are collaboratively making, right? And you are using this idea of design thinking, you're applying design thinking to create solutions that are desirable, feasible, viable, and sustainable. Now, one of the most important things that we cover, the other dimension that we measure is developing on cadence and releasing on demand. Right? Now, why do you need to develop on cadence? Cadence enables you to manage that variability, right? And then also it allows you to be able to decouple these releases and release on demand, right? You don't want to release whatever you want to release, but whatever customers want, and whenever they want it, you need to be able to build capabilities to be able to release that. Now, DevOps, and the third dimension that we look into is DevOps and continuous delivery pipeline, right? So what's the idea behind this? Like, why do you need to have this dimension, right? Again, you as an enterprise should have the capabilities to be able to release your value in whole or parts. So not everyone wants to buy the entire product that you guys are building, but you need to have those capabilities to be able to develop solutions in part and as a whole to meet the customers and market demands. So, and then a little bit into the course, like I said, it's going to be a 500 feet level. I'm not going to go too deep into this. So what are the different topics that we cover in this course? We talk, we emphasize a lot on design thinking in terms of how do you use design thinking to be able to understand the problem and discover and define the solutions, right? And you make an attempt to really understand the problem, and then you design the right solution. So how do you leverage design thinking to be able to understand the problems? Again, like I said, the focus is on the customer centricity. It's all about understanding your customers' problems. It's all about like designing the right solutions at the right time in the right way. We also talk about how do you explore the markets using different kinds of market research, user research, and using data-driven practices for asking the right set of questions. When do you ask the qualitative questions? When do you ask the quantitative questions? And when do you use the primary data? When do you use the secondary data? We talk about driving the market strategy with market segmentation. How do you segmentize? How do you choose the right market to deliver your products or services or solutions that you guys are creating, right? And then this is one of the greatest things that you learn from, like we emphasize, there's a lot of content that we cover on how do you use empathy to drive design. What are the different kinds of maps that you need to explore? There are different kinds of canvases we explored. We also let you know how to come up with very efficient customer journey maps, to be able to really empathize with the customer so that the solutions that you're creating are really solving the customer's problems, right? So that's the next topic that we cover. We also talk about how do you come up with effective strategy, and how do you build a vision? How do you build the roadmaps? We talk about this value stream economics, especially as an enterprise agile coach. What I've realized is, understanding this value stream economics, and then having the product managers understand this value stream economics. This helps you a lot because the product managers are always looking for solutions that are going to benefit their customers. They may not really understand how this value stream economics can really help them do, or they may not be able to really understand why we're going through all these things. But then again, once you teach the product managers what the value of these value stream economics is, they'll be able to really help you. The product managers can help you in terms of carrying out the transformation in any organization, because and then we also talk about value stream innovation, right? So in a situation like this, I'm really in touch with a lot of product managers, a lot of senior vice presidents and executive directors who play the role of a product manager. Not all companies can afford to really create new suite of products, but this value stream innovation, the concept that you learn will enable you to really understand how to look at all your products and services that you're supporting currently, and introduce a lot of innovative techniques to be able to come up with new products, new suite of products within the product suite that we have. And we also talk about how can you deliver value continuously, and how do you manage this value stream economics throughout this throughout your product lifecycle. And last but not the least, we'll talk about how do you define a product strategy and vision, and the concept of this whole product. That's something that you'll understand. So these are the topics that we covered. I think I've talked a lot. I'm going to pass it to Adam now, and then at the end, we'll take questions. So to you, Adam, I'm going to go on mute. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for hanging out with us. And I apologize. The sun just started setting, so it kind of looks like a movie screen on my face. So I think we have a nice overview of kind of, some of the philosophies of what product management is. But what I like to start with is the why. What is product management? It's not a new discipline. Who's been doing it? Why have they been doing it? And where can we look to learn more to better understand the journey for product management within the organizations that we either work with or that we anticipate helping? So a little bit before we get into that, so about me, as mentioned, my name's Adam. I'm a partner and enterprise advisor at Scaled Agile. I do a lot of the work around lean portfolio management, around product management, and a lot of other areas. I do a lot of blogging and things like that. Over the years, I've kind of built and sold a few companies that kind of accidentally landed me where I'm at today. I started off by having an internet service provider back in the late 90s. I sold that and then started building a company that actually built the very first e-commerce platform that allowed auto dealers to sell cars online. And then, things just evolved from there. So I've had a lot of experience in a lot of different areas of technology, but the area that I love the most is product. And to learn about product, I actually spent 3 years working with an apparel manufacturer here in the United States called Under Armour. And I learned about product, the intricacy, the detail, the passion of product from these people who spend their entire lives designing, being creative. And I got to kind of bring in my perspective from technology and building platforms to that. So it was a really great learning environment. So what is product management? So what we need to understand is that for a lot of the enterprises that we're working with, these words may have been used in the past, but in a different way than what we intend it to today. So in a lot of companies, product management was simply a different word for for program management. But what we want to take a look at is how this word and how this title and how this discipline is used in consumer product companies to truly understand how we want to start evolving our approach to products and taking into account kind of the core lean agile philosophies of decentralized decision-making, managing for economics, managing for flow, and really delivering product and value at the right moment when the customer decides or the market decides that they're ready. So some of the things that this is going to include are actually building out the product suite, understanding the business justification, understanding how to price competitively in the market, how to launch, and also how to manage effectively the product lifecycle. So the evolution of a product is pretty distinct. And from Jeffrey Moore's book, Crossing the Chasm, I mean, you can follow most products through this very logical adoption curve. So in the very beginning, you've got the early adopters. These are the people who are probably either the people who are out there on places like Indiegogo or some of the other crowdsourcing sites that are really excited to get the very first betas. You are probably the same people that downloaded the Microsoft Windows updates when they first came out, and they would crash your system 7 times before it stabilized. Those people get very, very excited. And then there's a chasm. There's kind of a gap that we have to solve for. It's the bridge between the early adopters who are very passionate and excited and the early majority, which is the people who start helping you make money and start achieving that return on your product. Your job as a product manager is to understand how to cross that chasm. And then once we get there, we also follow a very predictable S-curve in terms of profitability and return. We know that in the very early stages of a product, we're probably spending more to get that product out to market than we're receiving in revenue. But we know that later on in the maturity cycle that our products will be largely stable and we won't have to do a lot or invest a lot to maintain them, but we'll be reaping a lot of return at that point. So understanding and planning actively what that looks like for your product is a very important skill for product management. Now, to understand what our products are, and this is truthfully what a lot of organizations struggle with. Many enterprises that you walk into have no idea what their products are. They can't articulate it. The best place to start and the easiest place is the parent level. If you go to a company's website and you click on products or services, those are your top level products. And typically that's where you see P&L owners and senior executives manage that portfolio of solution. What we want to focus on is the more detailed level of that solution. So if you work at SAP, for example, I don't want you managing SAP as a whole and also the details of each module within SAP. We want to be able to segment our product from the whole and then break it down into the individual elements that we can decentralize to the people who have the best information. It goes back to the concept of enterprise architecture. When you look at the big picture, we want our architects and our information security folks and our business architects to understand generally how the business should operate, what it should look like, what it should feel like, and how we speak to the customer. But then we start decentralizing the other decisions to the lines of business, to the people who manage the day-to-day nuances. So helping organizations understand where logically to organize their products is step one. And where we typically recommend that people start looking is with the value streams. So how do we generate revenue? Where are our profit and loss centers? How do we interact with the customer? These can be B2C solutions. They can be things like B2B in terms of HR, for example, is not a revenue center, but a cost center. but they have a very distinct suite of products and a very distinct customer. How do we proactively manage to that customer's needs? These are all difficult questions to answer, but important ones to start asking. So what we need to remember is that though product management and project management have the same initials, PM, they don't mean the same thing. Product management does not equal project management. So to really understand how to get good at this discipline, we need to look at who is great at it today. The consumer product companies such as Pepsi, Procter & Gamble, Nike, a lot of the companies that produce the products that we love as consumers have mastered this art. If you go to any of these companies, Nike especially, and you start searching for the job description, product line manager, global product line manager, and look at the responsibilities and the skills required, those are the same skills that we want to start seeking to develop in the product managers for the organizations that we're working with. It's a very different set of skills, but a very important one to start growing. So how do we get better at product management? So first we have to understand, what is it that we're building? What is the product or solution that we intend to take to market? And then, as we were mentioning earlier, what are the things that make our products desirable, feasible, viable, and also sustainable? And what these thinking points drive back to is the design thinking process. We first want to seek to understand our problems broadly. We want to go divergent. What are all of the impacts, all of the influences, all of the contributing factors that lead to this problem that we hope to solve to our customer? And then we converge on the ones that are most impactful. So once we've defined and understood the problem, we again want to diverge to figure out what is the appropriate solution to that problem. Go wide, brainstorm, think of everything you could possibly do, and then converge on the appropriate solution that you can take to market that's sustainable, that takes into account what's desirable, viable, and feasible to maintain for your business model. This is not easy. Design thinking, a lot of people hear the words design thinking and they think, oh, that's something that creatives do. This is a fantastic approach that you can take to start addressing any problem. And this is a skill, this is the team that I work with at Scaled Agile. We're actually right now in the process of building some design thinking workshops, which will be a toolkit that you all can take, you can download, and you can deploy to start addressing any problems that your organizations or clients might face. The idea is that design thinking is a framework that helps you come to the right solution, without really regard to any specific type of problem. It's a good mental model for helping us get to the root and then figuring out what the best way to solve that root cause is. So we also want to start taking into account the customer. The customer is at the center of our world. Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, had a statement that was he's fairly famous for, and it was, there's one person in any enterprise who has the power to fire everybody, and that's the customer. If we don't delight the customer, they will fire us fast. So we need to understand where the key touch points are between our release trains, our organizations, and the customers, whoever they may be. Largely speaking, that's going to be between either product management or solution management, just based upon the size, the bigness of the thing that it is that you're building. These are the people who want to seek to understand, and again, it's people, it's not one person. Generally speaking, on a release train, you've got one product manager serving between 2 and 4 product owners on an arc. In solution management, it depends. If you're working on a large program, if you're doing something like building an aircraft, there's probably one solution manager who oversees the entirety of the program, the aircraft, and then other solution managers underneath that kind of understand things like airframe, propulsion, radar systems, informatics. So understanding how these roles apply to your context, again, that scales. But understanding these roles, solution management, product management, are the ones who seek to understand the customer's needs so we can be sure that we're developing the right things for that customer, whoever they're defined to be. So here's 5 considerations to take into account to start improving your product game today. These are things you can start taking back to work, I guess, if you're in India, maybe in 6 hours when you start your day. But here's 5 things you can do immediately to get better. Number 1 is to know your competition. Who are you competing with? Where are you good? And where is your competition good? So there's 2 types of analysis here that we can look at. One you're probably very familiar with, and the other is probably newer. So the SWOT analysis is something that they teach in business school, which is understanding our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats as it relates to our products. The TOES analysis kind of wraps around that to say, externally, where are we good? Externally, where are our threats? What are our opportunities? How can we get better? So this is, again, understanding ourselves introspectively, and then also understanding the broader market looking out. It's a very hard conversation to have, but very, very enlightening. So again, understanding your competition, understanding your market, that helps you better understand yourself. So a word on innovation, because this is something that's thrown around a lot. If you say you're innovative, you're probably not. If a company says they're innovative, they're probably not. The most innovative companies in the world don't ever say the word because they're too busy breaking things. Most companies, when they say they're innovative, they take a look at what they know to be possible. They don't pay any attention to what they think is impossible. They take a look at the competition and they do something just a little bit better, or a little bit different. It's called one-upsmanship. They call it innovation. Not innovation at all. What innovation really is the idea that we want to be smart enough to be naive enough to not know what cannot be achieved. Really think about that statement. You must be smart enough to be naive enough to not know what cannot be achieved. That's the spirit of innovation. And what that looks like is we're going to blindly charge towards that wall that separates what we know to be possible from what we know to be impossible. And if you take a look at Tesla, and you take a look at most things that Elon Musk does, this is how he lives life. They built the Cybertruck basically with parts they had laying around. They pulled it up on stage and said, well, let's see what happens. Threw some rocks at the windows they weren't supposed to break, but they did. Lo and behold, they have 200,000 pre-orders for a truck they expected nobody to buy. SpaceX is another great example. If you look at SpaceX today, they're failing miserably. Their mission is to colonize Mars. In their pursuit of the colonization of Mars, they're a miserable failure. They're charging towards this barrier between what we know to be possible in terms of space travel and hoping to achieve the impossible. But as a result of charging towards that wall and crashing into it, really cool things have happened. If you take a look at the reusable rockets, nobody ever thought that was possible. If you take a look at the Dragon space capsule, the inexpensive reusable mechanism to take humans to space, nobody even thought to think that it was impossible. If you take a look at the interior to that Dragon capsule, it looks like a Tesla. If you compare it to a space shuttle, the space shuttle had gauges and dials and buttons all over the place. The Dragon capsule has 4 screens and that's it. So when we talk about challenging the possible and the impossible, that's where really cool things happen. We may or may not ever achieve those big, hairy, audacious goals, but the things that we achieve in their pursuit will take us much further than doing what we think is safe. So again, thinking in terms of innovation, the word is dangerous. Understand what it means. It means blindly challenging what we know to be possible without worry of the repercussions if we fail. Knowing that the pursuit of this big goal is going to take us further than we'd ever achieve otherwise. So the question is, what have you failed at lately? Business school teaches us that failure is bad. And a lot of organizations, if you fail at an initiative, if you fail at a product or a project, your career's marked and you're done. That's not the mentality that we want to have because it's not going to allow us to thrive in the post-digital economy. We need to have experiments. We need to fail. We need to experiment with things, be wrong, pivot, and have the courage to do that and have the psychological safety to have that be okay in our organizations. Number 2, to experience competitive products is to know your products. And then you can proactively curate your experience based on those learnings. So I ran an experiment with this. I created a bicycle company. My goal was to create a bicycle that was the first American-made bike to podium at the Tour de France. That was my big, hairy, audacious goal. And as a result, I went out and bought a whole lot of really expensive carbon fiber bicycles and made them tax deductible because I was investing in my business. I went out and experienced my competition. In order to create a product that's going to be world-class, you have to understand what you're competing against. At Under Armour, when we would create a new product, the very first thing that we would do is buy competitive samples of every product we were going to compete against. How this can relate to technology. So let's say, for example, you're working on an HR information system. If you're going to create an applicant experience for anyone that's going to apply for a job in your company, the first thing you need to do is go apply for jobs at every competitor. understand the experience that they're giving to their new hires, their candidates. If you manage some sort of a product within a bank, say you manage a loan application process, say you manage the experience for applying for an auto loan. Well, you better go out and apply for auto loans with all of your competitors, because if you don't understand the experience they're providing, what's good about it and what's not good about it, you can't hope to win the market. You've got to experience your competition. And that's a key responsibility for product owner. You need to go out there, experience, touch, interact, play the role of a customer. Otherwise, you're not going to understand, again, your strengths and weaknesses. So there's all sorts of different tests that we can use in this scenario, understanding the different features, understanding performance. We don't want to lose track of these things. But what's most important to the end user, most of our customers, it's not the performance metrics and the stats and all of these things. It's how do I feel as I interact with your product, your solution? What's my perception? If you manage that perception and you can curate those surprise moments, you're going to win the battle. That leads us to the next point, which is to know your customer is to know your product. We all understand personas. These are the generic profiles of the most powerful users of our product. We want to understand who they are, what motivates them, understand where they're at, understand how much time they use to interact with our product. What does their life look like? All of these data points help build empathy with the people using our products. If you don't know these people, you can't seek to satisfy them. When I was working with Under Armour, we had this, the products I was working with there were those that were geared towards the military. At that point in time, we worked with the special operations community, and they were doing a lot of work overseas, and had some very specific needs. How do we travel from a mountaintop at 14,000 feet where it might be 20 degrees and windy, and then also, without changing our clothes and uniform, be as effective at sea level in an urban environment? So to help us understand those needs, we created a persona called Tactical Steve. And we gave Steve a name. We knew what kind of music he liked. We knew what his workout schedule looked like. And by creating this personality, everything that we did, we related back to Steve. And one of my favorite stories of personas, there's a woman, her name's Helena Kalin. I worked with her at Under Armour. She was in charge of all of the undergarment development. She went on to be a senior vice president of Victoria's Secret. She was the chief product officer at Lululemon, and she's recently started her own company. But one of the things I really admired about Helena is that every single time she spoke of the customer, she spoke in terms of her. So she would never say our customer or anything like that. She would speak as if the person was in the room. She would talk about her needs, her wants, her desires, how we seek to satisfy her. And that made that customer very real and tangible in the room. So if you start thinking about your customers, you could say our employees, our bank people, our insurance holders, whoever it might be. Give those people a persona, give them a name, and then give them a seat at the table in the room. One of the other things Helena did was in any meeting that we would have about product, she would have an empty seat at the head of the table. And that seat represented the customer. So you would never say something about the product or about the customer that you wouldn't actually say in front of them. You would always seek in every conversation to delight that person who is tangibly in the room. So it's a really powerful thing. It starts kind of molding how we think and how we interact with our customers, our solutions, and our products. Number 4, you've got to get out and observe others with your product to understand how they interact with it. So one of the things that we've done, and one of the things that I've seen is Under Armour would go out as product managers to a Dick's Sporting Goods or to any retailer that sold their products. And they would sit silently and watch customers interact. They'd pick up a garment, they would touch it, they'd feel it, pick up a pair of shoes, look at them, and they would just seek to listen, and they would seek to understand. Nordstrom did something like that this last year at the holiday season with a mobile app. They built a virtual reality sunglasses tool in the store live with customers. So you had software engineers, product managers, designers, creators, all in the store interacting with live customers buying shirts and slacks and whatever else to build this product with them live real time. It gets the customers involved. It gives you real-time feedback. The delay between I have an idea or a pain in the solution was then next to nothing. You need to figure out how can we apply that to our context. If you work on an internal solution, it could be quite as simple as grabbing somebody in the hallway. If you're building an HRIS, there's employees all around you. Get them, gather them, ask questions. If you work for, say, a bank or an insurance company, there's a pretty good chance that your colleagues are also customers of that product. Ask them questions of customers. And a great tool that you can use, and something pretty cool here that we did, kind of tying back to that Nordstrom philosophy, is we also want to iterate with our customers where we can. So again, if you're building, say, a banking mobile app and your colleagues are users of that app, build something, test it, invite them to the demo, let them try to break it, let them give you real-time feedback from the perspective of a customer. When I was working with Under Armour, we actually took a group of military personnel to a mountaintop in Colorado, and we had a sewing machine and we had all kinds of different things there with us. So we'd build a jacket. We'd give it to them. They'd go out, they'd test it. They would say, it's a little tight here. I need more space here. We'd make the adjustments, sew it back up, give it back to them, and let them go out and test it again. The closer you can marry your product development to your customer, the faster you'll be able to deliver the appropriate solutions to your customer. But just think, who is our customer? Who best represents our customer? And how best can I get close to them? A tool to try is the Empathy Map Canvas. This is something that's available on the Scaled Agile Framework site. If you happen to be a community member, you also have access to the Safe Collaborate platform, and you can use this in digital terms. But this is really an observation tool. So what you want to avoid is having a meeting where you try to fill this out, because you're going to fill it out with a bias based on what you think or what you think you know. How we used this with Under Armour was we would sit there in the store, and as we watched people interact with the product, we'd quite simply fill this out. Who is the customer that we see? Is it a parent? Is it an athlete? Is it a child? What is it that we think they need to do? Is it a mother buying soccer gear for a child? So we can assume that the mother's buying soccer gear for, her son or daughter. What do they see in the store? How do they see our product? How does it show up? What do they say about the product as they interact with it? What do they do with it? Are they picking it up? Are they touching it? Are they not even picking it up? All of these things will help us better understand the customer's perception of our product. So you gather all of these data points, you can pull them back together and really start to extrapolate some trends, and you can identify some areas where you're really strong, as well as opportunities to get better. But observation is a very powerful tool. Number 5, to experience your product is to know your product. Here in the US, we had a TV show called Undercover Boss. And the idea was that the CEO of companies would just pose as a line worker. We have a company here in the US called Waste Management, and they do a lot of the trash and garbage pickup. So the CEO of Waste Management was a garbage truck operator for a few weeks. And he went out and interacted with the line workers, the most direct customer contact people that they have, to understand what's hard about their job, what makes their job easier, what could I do to make their job better. And by being with, in that case, his customer being his employees, he knew better how to lead. We can do the same things with our customers. If we can go out and interact with them and we can understand them, we can observe, we can put ourselves in their shoes, it'll help us better empathize and create better solutions. And again, these are all skills of effective product management. Another thing to consider is how experience architecture overlays and works within the value stream. So the value stream, quite simply, concept to cash. Something happens that triggers a customer's demand, a bunch of stuff happens operationally, and then we get money, they get value. So in this example, you see a couple's journey to get a home loan. So they have a trigger, they need a place to live. They go through a bunch of operational processes. Some make them happy, some make them feel kind of okay, others make them feel not so great. And they go through that, and there's also the technology they interact with that supports that experience, as well as the employees that they interact with to help them through that experience. When we talk about experience architecture, what we want to understand are these emotions. And I'll give you an example. So this house I'm sitting in right now, my wife and I bought just a month ago. And the mortgage process is not always the most fun. And the company that I worked with, they made the best of a very painful experience. And they did little things. They curated moments. So there's a book out there, it's called The Power of Moments, and it talks a lot about experience architecture and how all of us as consumers, an experience that's good, we don't remember. An experience that's just okay, we don't remember. We know that it wasn't great, we know that it wasn't, mind-blowing, but we remember it was generally a pretty positive experience, and we never talk about it. If you look at reviews on Google, there's either reviews that are way over the top good, or they're 1 stars because it was horrible. Those are the experiences that stick with us. So how do we take a regular mundane business process and make it something memorable? We have to curate moments. So this bank, what they curated for me was, after I went through the application process, they sent me a pair of socks. I mean, and how silly is that? A bank that I'm going to borrow money from is sending me branded socks. It was stupid, but it stuck with me. I wear those socks often, and I like to tell the story of the socks every time I wear them. That's a little moment. I would never talk about this company had it not been for those socks. Once I got through the underwriting process, which is basically the very in-depth approval process for a mortgage, they sent me another gift. They had looked at my social media, and they knew that one of the things that I like to do is cook for my family. So they went out and bought me a cookbook and some really nice cooking utensils, and they sent it to me. And that showed me that, okay, this organization, this bank actually took the time to get to know me as a person. They're empathizing with the fact that their process is painful. There's not a lot they can do about that because of the regulations that are in place for mortgages. But they're empathizing with me and doing something to curate a moment that makes it so that I don't necessarily remember the painful part, but I remember this very unique, almost silly thing that they've curated that sticks with me. In the book, The Power of Moments, they talk about a hotel in Los Angeles. And this hotel, it hadn't really been updated since the 1970s. I mean, it wasn't great. It was kind of a dirty, just old hotel. And they were getting ready to go out of business. And their very last weekend in business, they started delivering popsicles to the pool that were made with champagne. And people tweeted about it. All these celebrities saw it. They started coming to the hotel. And that popsicle, that one little thing, took this business from being, basically insolvent to a place where it is booked solid every single weekend with top tier celebrities and movie stars because they want this stupid popsicle made with champagne. And now the fact that it's kind of a 1970s era, like not too updated hotel, that's part of its charm. Those moments are powerful. We need to start thinking about how we can curate them within our customer experience. And again, that's what product management needs to do. We need to start thinking, how do we manage end-to-end the customer experience so that it's as profitable as it can be for us, that it is as pleasant as it can be for our customers, and memorable enough so that the customers are willing to re-engage that process as often as they need to, so they remain loyal to us. So that's a lot. We talked about the Agile Product Delivery competency and the Agile Product Management course. This class is like an MBA in 2.5 days. It is so dense, it's going to leave you just feeling overwhelmed. But it's a good foundation. And just like all of the trainings and classes that we offer, it's meant to give you 20% of the knowledge that you need to be successful, but show you exactly where to go to learn more. And that's really what our goal is. The framework itself, it's not a prescription. It's not do all of these things and you will be great. It's a toolbox. Based on what we know of modern business, we've included all of the tools that are required to solve most of the common business problems across industries. It is your job as change agents, as SPCs, as consultants, as internal change agents, to understand all of the tools in the toolbox, to understand which tools to pull out to address certain issues, and how to apply those tools to your unique context. So, again, Scaled Agile Framework, not a prescription. It's a big toolbox. We're going to continually evolve that knowledge base as the business environment changes. And our goal is to continue to be, good partners for our community members. If you've not checked out the Scaled Agile community, community.scaleagile.com. There's a ton of good info in there that gives you the double and the triple click behind the framework site. So there's videos and articles and toolcasts and podcasts and all kinds of cool stuff. Feel free to check that out. But with that said, I will kick it back to our gracious hosts.
Awesome session. Thank you very much, Adam, for such an informative session. Thank you very much. So, guys, we have the chat box. If you have any questions, you can post the questions. Meanwhile, I have one question. So,
sure.
A couple of times I have received this question: what is the basic difference of SAFe APM and POPM?
So if you look at the implementation roadmap, let me see if I can pull this up real quick and share. So when we talk about, kind of the journey to agility for a lot of organizations, it's not linear. I mean, it's not something that we do, kind of overnight or in a few weeks. So let me go ahead and share this. All right, so this implementation model is based on the work of John Cotter and kind of the 8 steps of embracing and internalizing change. So when we start looking at where POPM falls on the implementation roadmap, there's some logical steps that we take first. So one is we have to make the decision that going safe, that running this experiment is right for us. And it's not, we don't go safe for the sake of going safe. We make the decision to change how we work to achieve a larger goal or a larger outcome. That's our vision. So maybe we want to deliver products to market faster and put our customers more centristic in our operating world. So, and we've done some evaluation. We decided that Scaled Agile Framework can help us do that. So we go through, we train the change agents and the change leaders. We train the executives and the managers so they understand what it is that's being asked of them. We then go through and identify the value streams and identify what is the first release train that is logical for us to launch. So once we've identified that first release train, we probably have a bunch of people that have titles today like business analyst, project manager, product manager, program manager, whatever. So we need to start giving them the basic skills that they need to be successful in this new way of working. So when you start looking at leading safe, POPM, safe Scrum Master, and safe for architects, that's basically giving you enough information and enough skill to get started in your very first PIs. So this is how to write a user story. This is how to write a feature. There's some conversation there about how you might transform in-flight work into these new workable elements. What are the concepts of how do we deliver the most value possible by doing the least work possible? That's really hard for a lot of people to understand as we transform. So the idea is that, again, POPM, Safe Scrum Master, that's enough information to get started. And then, so we go through, we launch our first PI, we might go through a PI or two. And then if you look at where APM, the software engineering, DevOps, and LPM come, it's later on. So by the time we are ready to have the Agile product management conversation, we're probably starting to understand the idea of what does product management mean? How do we organize around value? And we also might be ready to start decentralizing some of the decisions that senior leaders held to themselves and really empowering product management. So this is how you create artifacts and how you start thinking and acting in a different way. And then this is really how you accelerate those skills into a completely new way of working. The same thing you see, again, with LPM and some of those other classes. Again, in the beginning, it's enough to get started. And then once we're psychologically ready to go to the next step, we have those conversations. And if you look at the very end, RTE, that class doesn't come until you've already executed several PIs. The RTE class and the Advanced Scrum Master class really focus on how do you start coaching, how do you start influencing, and there are some of those very deep, soft skills that we develop only after we've learned how to do the basics of the role. Does that make sense?
Cool. I think I got the answer, and it will be very helpful for others also. So
Great.
we have one more questions from Rao.
Sure.
What is the job market at US for H-1B people?
I have no idea. I don't know. So the job market here in the US right now is it has very, very hot spots and very, very cold spots with everything going on with COVID-19. I truthfully don't know how to answer that question right now because it's so context specific to the industry and the market. I mean, I think again, in some areas you're going to see a lot of opportunity. In other areas, you probably won't see very much. I think that right now, if you look at kind of the financial industry and maybe the insurance industry, you'll find more opportunity because those industries are making a lot of money right now. You're not going to find anything in retail. I'll tell you that much. There is nothing happening in retail.
Okay. So I think, Rao, you're happy with the answer. As we are almost near the closing and there's no much questions. So I think we are at a good place to close this session. So thank you very much, Adam, for such an informative session. I think everyone has benefited with this session. Thank you very much, Shyam, for taking out time for this session and sharing insights. This is I think, wonderful session, very informative. And you'll find this recording under the iZenBridge YouTube channel. We'll upload this recording there and we'll inform everyone over the email as well.
Great.
Yeah, Adam, it was really, really very profound and detailed session. A lot of information packed in such a, we're talking about just 30 minutes. You packed so much of information. I'm sure a lot of people would have gained a lot of knowledge just by attending this half-hour session because you've really packed in so much of information, so many examples, so much of analyses, and then real-time examples of how you can really use this course to be able to solve the customer's problems. Very informative for me as well. Like I've done a lot of transformations, but this was information. Thank you very much. Thanks.
So the last thing I just would like to share with participants, we have a APM session scheduled for 22nd of August. So the more information, you can connect me or you can visit our website. I'll just share the link of the website and web page here for the participants. Just a second. So guys, this is the link. For more information, you can connect me also. I'm Kumkum. Anything else, Adam? Any last minute insights?
No, I mean, again, check out the Safe Community site, community.skilledagile.com. There's a ton of really good free stuff out there. So feel free to digest it. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to hit me directly on LinkedIn. I'll post the link in the chat box. Okay. Let me make sure this link is correct before I post it. I don't want to post the wrong link. I got it correct. All right. Well, I hope everybody has a good day or a good evening, depending where you're at. And we'll see you out there.
Yeah. Have a great day, guys. Thanks for
Thanks, everyone.
for the session.
Thank you. Bye.